The first time my mother begged me to come home, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Nothing about a woman crying on a voicemail after 18 years of silence is funny. I almost laughed because for most of my life, home had been a word other people used. A place with a kitchen light on. A place where somebody noticed if you were late. A place where your name was said like it mattered. For me, home had been a suitcase by the front door and my father saying, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." I was 12 years old the day my parents chose my twin sister over me. Her name was Claire. Mine is Lily. We were born 6 minutes apart, and my mother used to joke that Claire came out first because she already had a plan, and I came out second because I was still thinking about it. People laughed when she said that. I did too, at first. Then I started to understand that in my family, jokes were just truths wearing nicer clothes. Claire was the smart one. The bright one. The little genius with perfect handwriting, perfect test scores, and teachers who called my parents at night just to say, "Your daughter is special." I was special too, I guess, but in the way people say it when they can't find anything else. I was kind. I was helpful. I could calm down a screaming baby at church. I could fix a jammed kitchen drawer with a butter knife. I could remember everybody's birthday, including the neighbor's dog. But none of that got framed on the wall. Claire's spelling bee trophies did. By 2nd grade, she was in gifted classes. By 4th grade, she had a private math tutor. By 6th grade, my parents were driving her 3 hours every Saturday to a college prep program where kids wore blazers and talked about internships before they even needed deodorant. Me. I got, "Just try your best, honey." And when I did try, when I brought home a B- and waited for someone to smile, my father barely looked up from his laptop. "That's okay," he said. "School isn't for everyone." That sentence sat inside me like a stone. School isn't for everyone. Meaning success wasn't for everyone. Meaning pride wasn't for everyone. Meaning love, in our house, apparently came with a GPA requirement. The summer we turned 12, Claire got accepted into Windsor Academy, a private school for advanced learners. That's what the brochure called them. Advanced learners. Like the rest of us were expired software. The tuition was insane. I knew because I heard my parents whispering about it in the kitchen. My mother said, "We can't afford both girls there." My father said, "Lily wouldn't make it there anyway." I was sitting on the stairs with my knees pulled to my chest, holding my breath like that could make me invisible. Then my mother said, very softly, "So what do we do with her?" Her. Not Lily. Not our daughter. Her. 3 weeks later, there was a blue suitcase by the door. My clothes were in it. My old sneakers. My sketchbook. My stuffed rabbit with one ear half ripped off because Claire and I had fought over it when we were 5. My mother knelt in front of me and brushed my bangs away from my face. "You're going to stay with Aunt Grace for a while," she said. A while. That's the lie grown-ups use when they already know it's forever. Aunt Grace lived in a small town in Kentucky, in a white farmhouse that smelled like biscuits, furniture polish, and rain. She was my mother's older sister, but they hadn't been close for years. My mother thought Grace was too simple. My father called her a woman with no ambition. Funny thing about people with no ambition. They're often the only ones with enough room in their lives for a child nobody else wants. I asked my mother how long I'd be gone. She looked over my shoulder at the stairs, where Claire was standing in her new Windsor Academy sweater vest. "We'll see," Mom said. Dad loaded my suitcase into Aunt Grace's old Bic like he was dropping off donations. Claire didn't come outside. I don't blame her for that anymore. She was 12 too. She was told a story, and kids believe the stories their parents tell them because what else are they supposed to do? But back then, sitting in that Bic, watching the house get smaller through the back window, I thought my twin had let them throw me away. And that hurt worse than the leaving. For the first month at Aunt Grace's, I slept with my shoes beside the bed. I thought if my parents called and said, "Okay, Lily, come home," I'd be ready. They didn't call. Not on the first Sunday. Not on my birthday. Not at Christmas. Aunt Grace never said, "Stop waiting." She just kept making breakfast for 2. She put my drawings on the fridge like they were museum pieces. She taught me how to make gravy without measuring. She let me sit behind the counter at the diner she owned and do my homework while truck drivers called me kiddo and tipped me quarters for refilling coffee. One night, after I got a C on a science test and cried so hard I couldn't breathe, Aunt Grace sat beside me on the porch swing. "Baby," she said, "a report card can tell you what you remembered on a Tuesday morning. It can't tell you what kind of woman you're going to become." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But when your own parents decide you're the extra twin, the backup kid, the one they can spare, it messes with your head. You start apologizing for taking up space. You learn to make yourself useful because useful people are harder to throw away. So I worked. At 13, I could run the cash register at the diner. At 15, I could balance the books better than Grace could. At 16, when a pipe burst in the back bathroom, I watched the plumber, asked questions, and fixed the same problem myself 6 months later. I wasn't dumb. I was just never the kind of smart my parents knew how to brag about. By 24, I had my own small home repair business. By 30, I had crews in 3 counties. By 35, I owned a restoration company that rebuilt houses after floods, fires, tornadoes, all the messy stuff insurance companies hate and families cry over. I knew how to walk into a room where everything had fallen apart and say, "Okay, first thing first." That became my whole life. First thing first. Don't panic. Don't beg. Don't wait for people who left you to suddenly grow a heart. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon in April, my phone rang. I was standing in a half-burned kitchen in Louisville, wearing work boots and a dust mask, when the number popped up. Unknown caller. Then I answered. "Lily." My mother's voice had gotten older, but I knew it right away. Some sounds don't fade. They just sit in your bones waiting. I didn't say anything. She took a shaky breath. "Honey, it's Mom." Honey. That word from her mouth felt like a coat pulled from a closet after 20 years. Familiar smell, wrong season. "What do you need?" I asked. She started crying then, but not the kind of crying that makes you want to help. It was performance crying. Careful. Timed. Like she'd practiced in the mirror. "It's your father," she said. "And Claire. Everything is such a mess, Lily. We need you. We need you to come home." There it was. Home. I looked around at the burned cabinets, the black walls, the family photos melted into their frames. Funny thing. Even a burned house felt more honest than the one I grew up in. "What happened?" I asked. The story came out in pieces. Dad's company was failing. Claire, the brilliant one, the investment, the future, had taken over 3 years earlier and made a series of bold decisions. That was my mother's phrase. Bold decisions. In normal people words, Claire had borrowed too much money, trusted the wrong partner, and used the family house as collateral without fully understanding what she was signing. Now the bank was coming. Dad was sick from stress. Mom was beside herself. Claire had shut down. And suddenly, after 18 years, they remembered they had another daughter. One who knew how to fix broken things. One who owned a company. One who, according to Mom, always had such a practical little head on her shoulders. I laughed then. Just once. Small and sharp. My mother went quiet. "Lily," she whispered, "please don't be cruel." That almost got me. Not because I believed her, but because all my life, people like my mother had been experts at bleeding on the people they cut. "I'll think about it," I said. Then I hung up. That night, I drove to Aunt Grace's farmhouse. She had died 2 years earlier, and I still kept the place. I told myself it was because of taxes and land value, but the truth was simpler. It was the only place that had ever kept me. In the hallway closet, behind old winter coats, was a metal cookie tin. Grace had shown it to me before she died. "Open it when you're ready," she'd said. I never had. That night, I sat at the kitchen table where she used to roll biscuit dough and opened the tin. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Letters in my handwriting, from when I was 12, 13, 14. "Dear Mom and Dad, I'm doing okay. Dear Claire, do you still have Mr. Rabbit? Dear Mom, Aunt Grace says I can visit if you want me to. Every envelope had been returned. Some unopened. Some stamped. Return to sender. No such arrangement. My hands started shaking. Under the letters was one more envelope, addressed to Aunt Grace. My father's handwriting. Grace had kept it folded around a photograph of me on my first day at the diner, wearing an apron too big for my body and a smile too small for my face. I opened the letter. Grace, it said, we appreciate you taking Lily. This is best for everyone. Claire has a real shot at something exceptional, and Lily will be more comfortable in a simpler environment. We cannot divide our attention and risk failing the child with real potential. The child with real potential. I read that line over and over until the words stopped looking like English. Then I found the sentence that turned my sadness into something colder. Please do not encourage Lily to call or visit until she has adjusted. It confuses the situation and upsets Claire. Upsets Claire. My missing them had been inconvenient. My wanting to come home had been a scheduling issue. My parents hadn't just sent me away. They had blocked the road back and told themselves I stopped walking. I slept maybe 2 hours that night. The next morning, Claire called. I stared at her name on the screen for a long time. I hadn't had her number saved, but somehow I knew. Twins are weird like that. When I answered, she didn't say hello. She said, "Did you know they told me you hated me?" I closed my eyes. She sounded tired. Not polished. Not golden. Just tired. They told me you wanted to leave, she said. They said Aunt Grace gave you freedom and you didn't want our family anymore. I was a kid, Lily. I believed them. I sat down on the edge of the bed. I wrote to you, I said. Her breath caught. What? I wrote to all of you. 4 years. No, she said. No, Mom said you didn't want contact. I laughed, but it came out broken. Yeah. Mom said a lot of things. Claire started crying then. Not pretty crying. Not Mom crying. Real crying. Messy and embarrassed. I'm sorry, she said. I know that doesn't fix Jack. But I'm sorry. For the first time in 18 years, I didn't know what to do with my sister. So I told her the truth. I'm coming Saturday, I said. But I'm not coming to save them. There was a pause. Then Claire whispered, Good. Saturday night, I drove back to the house where I was born. The lawn looked smaller. The porch needed paint. The big maple tree in the yard had lost a limb in a storm, and nobody had cut it up right. Dad would have hated that once. He liked things neat. Controlled. Impressive from the road. My mother opened the door before I knocked. For half a second, I saw the woman I had waited for as a child. Then I saw the pearls, the perfect lipstick, the nervous glance over her shoulder, and I remembered who she really was. Lily, she said, reaching for me. I stepped back. Not dramatic. Just enough. Her arms dropped. Inside, the whole family was there. Aunts. Uncles. Cousins I hadn't seen since braces. Dad sat in his recliner, older and thinner, but still with that same look on his face like everybody in the room was a number he'd already calculated. Claire stood by the window. She looked like me and nothing like me. For 1 second, we just stared. Then she gave me the smallest nod. That nod kept me standing. Dinner was awkward as hell. People asked polite questions. My mother kept saying things like, "Isn't it wonderful to have both our girls under one roof again?" Both our girls. Like she hadn't boxed one up and shipped her out. After dessert, Dad cleared his throat. "Lily," he said, "we're glad you came." I looked at him. He didn't look glad. He looked desperate. "Family goes through hard seasons," he continued. "And when one member does well, it's only right that she helps the others." Ah, there it was. Not "I'm sorry." Not "we failed you." Not "how did you survive." Just, "you have something now, and we want it." My mother reached across the coffee table and touched a folder. I swear, these people had made an agenda. "We thought," she said carefully, "you might consider coming back into the family business. With your experience, your resources, your crews, you could help us restructure. Maybe invest. Maybe buy some time. Dad added, "You've done well for yourself. Grace left you that property. You own a company. Claire needs a second chance." I looked at Claire. Her face went white. "She didn't ask me for that," I said. The room got quiet. Dad's mouth tightened. "No, but she needs it. And frankly, Lily, after everything this family has done." I held up one hand. "Careful." One word. Quiet. But the room felt it. My mother leaned back like I'd slapped her. Dad's eyes narrowed. "You always were difficult," he said. And there she was. The old Lily. The problem. The extra. The one who made things hard by having feelings. I set my bag on the coffee table. I brought something too. Mom's eyes flicked to the bag. Claire looked at the floor. Dad scoffed. "What is this?" "The part of the story you left out." I opened the bag and took out the cookie tin. My mother froze. She knew it. I saw it in her face. Aunt Grace's cookie tin had been sitting in her sister's kitchen for years, waiting like a little metal witness. I took out the first letter. "This is from me to Claire," I said. I was 12. I asked if she still had our stuffed rabbit. Claire covered her mouth. I took out another. "This one is to Mom. I asked if I could come home for Thanksgiving." My voice stayed calm. That surprised me. I thought I'd shake. I thought I'd cry. But sometimes when a wound is old enough, touching it doesn't hurt. It just reminds you where the scar is. I laid the returned letters on the table one by one. "Returned," I said. "Unopened. Every single one." My cousin Dana whispered, "Oh my God." My mother stood. "That's not fair. You don't understand what was happening then." I looked at her. I was the thing happening then. Dad pushed himself up from the recliner. "You were not equipped for that school. Claire had opportunities. We made a hard choice." There it was. Finally. A hard choice. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. A choice. I pulled out Dad's letter to Aunt Grace. My father's face changed. Not much. Just enough. I read the line out loud. "Claire has a real shot at something exceptional, and Lily will be more comfortable in a simpler environment. We cannot divide our attention and risk failing the child with real potential." Nobody moved. Not even my mother. The house itself seemed to hold its breath. Claire walked to the table and picked up the letter with both hands. Dad said, "Claire, put that down." She didn't. She read it. Then she looked at him. "You told me she left because she hated us," Claire said. Mom started crying. "We were trying to protect you." "No," Claire said, voice cracking. "You were protecting yourselves." That was the first time I heard my twin sound like my sister. Dad turned to me. "Fine," he snapped. "We handled it badly. Is that what you want to hear? We were under pressure. Money was tight. Claire was gifted. You were." He stopped. But the room heard the word anyway. Not. You were not. Not gifted. Not promising. Not enough. My mother whispered, "Richard, don't." But he was already there. "You were happier with Grace," he said. "You built a life. Clearly, it worked out." I stared at him. That one almost broke me. Because some people will throw you off a bridge, then take credit when you learn to swim. "It worked out," I said slowly, "because Aunt Grace loved me. Not because you left me." My mother sat down hard. I turned to her. "You called me because you need money. You need my cruise. You need my company. You need me to come back and fix the mess your chosen child didn't magically solve." Claire flinched. I looked at her quickly. "That's not on you," I said. "They did this to both of us. They made you a trophy and me a trash bag, and neither one of us got to be a kid." Claire started crying again. This time, I did too. Just a little. Enough to be honest. My mother whispered, "Lily, please. We're your parents." I nodded. "Yeah. That's what made it worse." She reached for my hand. I didn't move away this time. But I didn't hold hers either. "You want me to come back?" I asked. Yes, she said immediately. Please. We can be a family again. I looked around the room. At the cousins learning the truth in real time. At my father, angry because his math had finally been checked. At Claire, broken but awake. At the walls that had watched a little girl wait for someone to choose her. No, I said. My mother's face crumpled. But I'll tell you what I will do. Dad's eyes sharpened. There he was, looking for the deal. I will not invest in the company, I said. I will not pay your debt. I will not save this house just because you suddenly remembered I exist. My mother sobbed. I kept going. I will help Claire find a lawyer who doesn't treat her like an idiot. I will help her separate her name from whatever mess you pushed her into. I will help my sister because she was lied to, same as me. Claire looked up. But you too. I said to my parents. You don't get access to my life because your plan failed. Dad's jaw worked. You'd let your own parents lose everything. I almost smiled. You let your own daughter lose her childhood. That shut him up. For once. I picked up the letters, but I left one on the table. The one where 12-year-old me asked to come home for Thanksgiving. Keep that, I told my mother. Read it whenever you feel sorry for yourself. Then I walked toward the door. Behind me, Mom said my name. Not honey. Not sweetheart. My name. Lily. I stopped. She was crying for real now. I think so, anyway. It's hard to tell with people who used tears like tools. We're sorry, she said. I wanted those words when I was 12. I wanted them at 13, 14, 15. I wanted them every birthday Aunt Grace put candles on a diner pancake because my own parents couldn't be bothered to call. But standing there at 36, I realized something that set me free. Some apologies arrived too late to change the damage. But they can still confirm you didn't imagine it. I turned around. I believe you're sorry now, I said. I don't believe you would be if you didn't need me. That was the truth. Ugly, but clean. Claire followed me outside. We stood under the porch light in the cool Kentucky dark, two women with the same face and completely different childhoods. I don't know how to be your sister, she said. I looked at her. Me neither. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Can we start with coffee? I laughed then. A real laugh. Small, but mine. Yeah, I said. Coffee's a start. 6 months later, my parents sold the house. Dad's company folded. Mom moved into a condo near my Aunt Pam, which honestly felt like punishment enough. They called sometimes. I answered once every few months. Short conversations. Weather. Health. No pretending. They asked if I'd visit for Christmas. I said no. Then Claire asked if she could spend Christmas with me and Aunt Grace's old farmhouse. I said yes. She showed up with store-bought pie and a nervous face. I opened the door, and for one strange second, I saw us at 12 again. 2 girls. 1 sweater vest. 1 suitcase. 1 story split down the middle. Then she held up the pie and said, "Don't judge me." The lady at the bakery said it was homemade-ish. And just like that, my sister made me laugh in the doorway of the only home that had ever chosen me. That night, we sat at Aunt Grace's table and read some of my old letters. Not all of them. Some wounds don't need an audience. But enough. Claire cried over the stuffed rabbit one. Turns out she still had it. She brought it with her, wrapped in tissue, one ear still torn. "I kept it," she said. "I thought it was all I had left of you." I touched the old rabbit's head. For years, I thought my family had chosen my twin over me. And they had. But the part one didn't understand until much later was that Claire hadn't chosen that. She had been chosen, polished, pressured, and trapped inside their dream until it nearly crushed her. I was thrown away. She was put on a pedestal. Different prisons. Same jailers. People love to ask if I forgave my parents. Here's the honest answer. Some days, yes. Some days, no way in hell. Most days, I don't think about forgiveness as much as distance. Distance can be holy. Distance can be the fence around the life you fought like crazy to build. My parents begged me to come back. But they were asking for the wrong thing. They wanted me to come back to the family that erased me. I chose to come back to myself. And let me tell you something. If you were the child they underestimated, the one they compared, the one they left out of photos, prayers, plans, or dreams, listen to me. You were never the spare. You were never the backup. You were never less because somebody else got the spotlight. Sometimes the people who don't see your worth are standing too close to their own ambition to recognize a miracle. So build your life anyway. Build it loud or build it quiet. Build it with shaking hands. Build it from diner tables, returned letters, second chances, and coffee with a sister you thought you lost. And when the people who chose someone else finally come knocking because they need what you became without them, you don't have to slam the door. But you don't have to hand them the keys either. You can stand there, calm as sunrise, and say the words I waited 18 years to say. I already came home. Just not to you.